Hello everyone, this is Gina. I'll be teaching you math and science this first semester. This will be my first time tackling math and science, for that matter, online. I have taught it before. Math is definitely one of my favorite subjects. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge trying to teach this content without being up at the board, because I'm at the board most of the time when I'm teaching this. Also having students come up to the board too and kind of showing their different ways of solving problems. So let's just keep our fingers crossed that we will be back on campus here in a couple weeks. So I'm just going to go over a couple things. If you take a look at your Blackboard, I know right now you're viewing the screen, but I'm just going to kind of go over some of the basics of the course in general. All of your courses, if you look under course content, you should find the course syllabus and then the the calendar rather. The syllabus is going to tell you what textbook, which from my last heard, you did not have the code to this book. So you did not have the code to this book. I have made copies out of your textbook for your assignments, so you'll be working with those. Just a couple other little things I want to say is that, hold on one second here, I'm trying to scroll down to the right part. So your exams count for 30%, homework is 20% of your grade, PPS, which are professional performance points, getting to class on time, turning in assignments on time, professional behavior, especially when we get on campus, being in your scrubs. Of course, those don't usually come after a couple of months. Having your hair tied back, no tattoos showing, that type of stuff, and we'll go over that a little bit more in the classroom. No food or drink in the classroom. Water bottles are okay, but they need to be on the floor. Different things like that is what the PPS is for. It's like professional points. All of your first semester classes are 15%, and then after first semester, that goes down to 10%. And then your final exam for this class is then worth 35%. I do have a pre-test that's under the course content, and that is just basically for me. I kind of want to see where you're at, kind of see what we need to work on. So don't stress about that. That is not going to be graded at all. It'll be graded just for my use. Also has the breakdown of what an A is from 93 to 100%, a B is 85 to 92, and then you need to have at least a 77 and above to 84 to actually pass. So if you get below 77% on anything, it's considered failing. Alright, so I am trying to do two mouses here. I'm looking at my desktop and then my laptop at the same time. I'm recording off of my laptop. The calendar right now is pretty vague as far as your assignments. It says like homework number 1, whole numbers 1 through 15, and all those are going to be attached on course content. So however you find it the easiest to, probably for right now, to email it to me. You can take a picture of it. You can do it on Google Docs and share it to me, however it works best for you to turn in your assignments. So today we'll be basically covering whole numbers. If you look under the folder for day 1, you will see a PowerPoint that's on there. The first PowerPoint is on there. That is one without voice. Okay, that's just the original PowerPoint that I use in the classroom. So what I'm doing right now is I do a voiceover on it on my computer. So and that'll be a YouTube link here once I get done with my voiceover. There's also a little tab on there that says place value help. just kind of a reminder where the place values are, your ones, tens, hundreds, thousand, and then anything to the right then has TH at the end of it. So then you have tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and 10,000ths. Okay, so any to the right has the TH on the end, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then you can see in red, I have your homework assignments. You can, print those however it works for you. I have the due date of the 24th, which is Friday, and then there's some optional. You'll learn that I pronounce terribly. Optional worksheets there if you need some other practice. Okay. All right, and always email me if you have any questions. I'm usually really good about getting back to emails, so especially since it's our main way of communication right now. All right, so these are some of the objectives. This comes from the textbook, where we'll be looking at standard and expanded form of numbers, writing a standard numeral in words, determining if a number is greater than or less than another number, rounding. Some people have forgotten how to round, so we'll go over that. Add, subtract, multiply, and divide, determining if a number is a prime, and then finding the primes of a number, breaking down the number, writing a number as a product of primes, order of operations, and then solving equations. Okay, so this is just a kind of a review here of what our numbers on the number line, as far as the number to the right of the 0 are positive, to the left are negative. Remembering that anything on the right is always greater than the number on the left. Okay, I know it seems pretty basic right now, but when we start multiplying negatives and dividing and that, sometimes it gets kind of confusing. This is all stuff that you have learned in the past, most likely elementary and middle school, but we're trying to shake the cobwebs off our brains. Believe me, I've had to shake a lot of cobwebs off my brain coming back to teaching after being out of school several years, a lot longer than most of you. But I enjoy it. It's a challenge and it's fun. So we'll try to make it fun. All right. So this, when I look at this reminds me of teaching elementary school. Actually, I did teach elementary school for about 6 years, and I think I did that on my little intro profile, and how they write the numbers out in expanded form. So this is just kind of a little review of this. That 406 is really a 400 plus 0 in the 10 spot, and then 6 ones basically. So it's 4 hundreds, 0 tens, and 6 ones. Okay, so just some of you that are helping your children at home with their math, you may see math done a lot differently than you did. All right, so again, the place value chart. I guess the big thing I want to say about this is that being able to recognize where everything is in the place values. Okay, so as you're going to the left of the decimal, the first place is going to be ones, then the second place to the left is going to be tens, and then you have hundreds, and then thousands. Okay, and the time that we really are supposed to only say "and" is that decimal part. Okay, so when we see a decimal, that's when we say "and." All right, I know a lot of us say it. We just, it's just kind of how we have learned or got to the habit, probably more than anything. So if we look at this first number, how do we say this? You'll find in the medical profession we often call it point, so we would say 100.5 is kind of how I'm used to saying it, but the proper way is 105 tenths. Okay, so that way when you have to flip-flop this and being able to figure out where the 5 goes, if you're asked to write this into a numeric form, then you know how to do it the reverse way too. Okay, so what about the 100 decimal point, or 0.05? So that would be 105 hundredths. Okay, and then 300 and is your decimal, 105,000. Okay. Okay, so I did go ahead as I was, I paused you here for a moment, and I went on the computer and I found a couple of Khan Academies. So I got Khan Academy decimal link and then Khan Academy link number 2. So those both kind of describe in a lot more detail exactly how they come up with saying the words that way. Okay, so when we look at the 300.105, 300 and 105 thousandths, that gives us an idea that there's a 100 and then the 5 is in the thousands place. So he kind of explains it a little bit more on the video. Okay, so we are moving on. And then this again is something that you're going to want to remember. DP meaning decimal point there, again showing you that everything to the right has the TH, and then to your left your ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000, and so on. So be familiar with those place values, because I will be asking for you to write those different ways. You'll have the word, you have to convert the word to a decimal, and the number into words. All right. So when we are talking about rounding, that's another one that kind of trips people up, especially when you're looking at rounding to the right of the decimal, again, because you're referring to the 100th place, the 10th. So if you see an example of where it's asking you to do it to the TH, then you know that they're talking about the number that they want you to round is to the right of the decimal. Okay, they're not all going to be like that, but some of them are going to be like that. So they're going to, I don't want to trip you up. And I'll show you some examples here on the next page, or on the next slide rather. So again, some of the rules for rounding is you're going to underline the place to which you are rounding, and then you're always going to look at the number, the first number to the right of the underlined number. Okay, so the first number to the right of the underline, if that number is 5 or more, then you're going to add 1 to the underlined number. Otherwise, if it's not, if it's less than 5, you're not going to change the number. Okay, so you'll just leave it, kind of drop it, and then change all the numbers to the right of the underlined number to 0. Okay, so example, round to the nearest 10, to the nearest 100, and to the nearest 1,000. Now this one doesn't involve any decimals. So I'm going to round to the nearest 10, so I have to look at my number 65,551. So where is my tens place? Okay, my ones place is the 1. So if I'm looking at my number and I'm reading it from right to left, okay, my 1 is in my ones place, and then my first 5 there, just immediately to the left of the 1, is in the tens place. Okay, so I look at that, I have to round it to the nearest 10. So I'm going to drop the 1 because 1 is definitely less than 5. And so my answer would be 65,550. Okay, so you just drop that 1 and put a 0 there. Now I'm going to look at nearest 100. So what number is in my 100 place? So my second 5 there. All right. So I'm looking at, basically, if I kind of ignore the rest of the numbers, I'm just looking at 500 or 551. So I'm looking, okay, so that number to the right is 5, so I'm going to have to round up, okay, because it's 5 or above. So that 551 then is going to turn into 600. So I'm just going to round up. And then if I look at rounding to the nearest 1,000, okay, so my 1,000 is the 5,000. I guess the last 5 to my left. So I've got 5,551, and again my number to the right of that 5 is another 5, so that means I'm going to round up. So if I round to the nearest 1,000, 500 or 5,551, I'm going to just turn that into 6,000. Okay, so you'll have practice on this with homework. And then the same goes for the decimal point too. So if I hold on 1 second, I want to try something. Okay, so I did go ahead and include one more video link. I found another one on Khan Academy. I need to actually remember to put in some blank slides on these presentations so I can actually write. This is just a big old learning curve here for all of us doing this online. So there's a third one that is showing you how to round to the 10th 100th. So when you're to the right of the decimal, it basically follows the same rules. Your first place value to the right of the decimal is your 10, and then your second one would be your 100th. Okay, so depending on what it's asking you, and then your third one would be your 1,000th, th, I forget to say 10th. Whatever one it's asking you to, you're going to again look to the number to the right. Okay, I think enough on that. I can get kind of talky. Looking, another thing that we're going to, and some people kind of get confused on this, I guess I spent some time on the rounding because that's one of the ones that I know it trips people up. So when we're looking at greater than or less than, okay, knowing what symbol means which, and I always remember that the alligator's mouth being open is open to the bigger number. Okay, so as you can see, 12 is greater than 5, and then of course I'm going backwards here. The other example, 5 is less than 9. Okay, 9 being on the alligator big mouth is open. Okay, so try to remember it that way. All right, moving on to terminology. Okay, and this is just basically this you definitely want to remember these vocabulary basically, because there are some questions I remember on test questions that kind of confuse people sometimes. So when we're looking at terminology, addend are the numbers to be added. So if you have a 4 plus a 3 equals 7, your 4 and your 3 are your addend. Okay, your sum then would be your 7. Okay, minuten, the larger of the numbers in the subtraction problem. So if you have 7 minus 2, for example, your 7 is going to be your minuten, and then your 2, again 7 minus 2 equals 5 if you're kind of taking notes, which I would be if I were doing this. 7 minus 2, then your 2 is your subtrahend. Okay, so that's the number being taken away or being subtracted. And then the difference is then the result of your subtraction problem, so that would be your 5. Okay. Then you have your multiplier, multiplicand, and factor. So that would be your numbers being multiplied. So let's say 3 times 4, those would be your multiplier or your factor. And then your product would be the result of the multiplication problem. So 4 times 3, and then 12 would be your product. Okay, then you have the dividend. And then, so a lot of people like to say in the house, so when you do a division problem, how you kind of do the box around the number. Okay, so the number being divided is the number inside the house. Okay, so you do your little square, put the number inside. The divisor then is the number used to divide. So if you use the problem of 12 divided by 4, so if you write it the old-fashioned kind of way that I call it with the little box, your dividend then would be the 12, divisor would be 4, okay, and then your quotient is the result, or your answer, which would then be 3. Okay. So I highly recommend, if you have not memorized your multiplication table, to kind of get that down if you can, because it'll just make your life a lot easier. Alright, now looking to see if a number is prime or composite number. So a prime number is a number having exactly 2 different factors, itself and 1. Okay, so it cannot be divided up anymore. If it can't be divided up anymore by itself and 1, then it is considered a prime number. Okay. So examples in 2, 3, 5, 7, and 11 are all prime. And then if you're looking at a composite number, is any number that is greater than 1 and not prime. Okay. So all those other numbers can be divided by something else besides itself and 1. Okay, so let's say take the number and divide it by the first 2 primes. Well, we're going to kind of go on to the next slide. And I'll show you here kind of. Alright, so if we're looking at this one, for example, 100, okay, we are going to write that number down in primes and then write it in exponential form. Exponent. So I'm writing myself notes. I'm always writing notes. Okay. Okay, so we're looking at 100. So we know that 10 times 10 equals 100, but we also know that 10 then can be broken down again into a 2 and a 5. Okay. So 2 times 5 equals 10. And we see that happening twice. So if we write that in exponential form, then looks like the 100 there kind of got cut off on the purple, but those should both say 100 on the bottom part of the problem there. So then you have basically, if you're looking how it kind of branches off, you have 2 2s and then 2 5s. So don't forget that that doesn't mean 2, well, it does actually in that case, 2 times 2, but it just happens to be. But the 5 to the second power is 5 times 5. Okay, so that's, we'll work more with that as we go on here. Again, like let's say you had 9, let's do 9 to the third power. It would not be 9 times 3, it's 9 times 9 times 9. Okay. Alright, so that's what it means by exponent form. Alright, now again, we'll be looking at some terminology here. Most of these, I think, for the most part, you probably will remember them, but some of them you may not. I need a bigger desk here at my house. So we're looking at mean, which is also average, mode, median, and range. So when we talk about mean or average, we're just basically taking the sum of all the values or whatever you're referring to, and you're adding it up, and then you're dividing it by however different units you had. Okay, so you do have some homework problems with this. So for example, if you had, let's say you're going to try to find the mean or average of, let's say 5 of your test scores, and you had 92, so this is one you could write down, 92 plus 79 plus 100 plus 89 plus 95. Okay, so your 5 values for your test scores were 92, 79, 100, 89, 95. Okay, and this is a good time to tell you that I'm not allowing calculators in this class. So this is where it gets kind of tricky. As we move on more into the program, there is a point where you will be able to use calculators, mainly because they are using a virtual calculator now on the boards. That was just something that is new as of 2020, but prior to that they were not. And I kind of meet you halfway on it as far as when we do more complicated calculations in like CV diagnostics and mechanical ventilation and all the other formulas and stuff that you're going to have to be doing. I want you to be able to do your work. I need you to show me your work, and you can always double check it with a calculator if you're doing your homework at home, but I want to see you write out your work. Okay, show your work. Okay, so you should be able to add those 5 numbers. If you add those 5 numbers, your total should be 455. Okay, so you added those 5 test scores, and then you're going to divide it then by 5 because you had 5 test scores. So when you divide 455 and you divide that by 91, you divide that by 5, you get 91. Okay, so work that out, see if that's what you got. If you didn't, you can double check with your calculator, kind of see what you did wrong. But that should be your answer for that one. I really didn't think I was going to need a blank slides on this, but now as I'm going through it, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I probably should have added them. All right, so median, what does that mean exactly? Okay, so that is the middle number in the list of numbers. Okay, one of the things that you need to do first, okay, and this is something that always trips people up, because you'll be given a problem, a homework problem, a test problem, whatever, and they'll just have the random numbers like it does here for the first example, 23, 54, 76, 34, 12. Okay, you need to put the numbers in order, okay, from smallest to largest. So you need to rewrite the list of numbers in smallest to largest and then find your middle number. Okay, because I'll have some people just look at that initial, those 5 numbers, and they'll say 76 because that's in the middle. No, you need to put them in order, in numerical order. Okay, and then you find your middlemost number. Now that works out nice, fine and dandy, really even though it's odd, by knocking the 2 off on each side, and then you find your middle number. But what do you do when you have even numbers? An even amount of numbers. So on this particular slide here you have 6 numbers. So after you have rewritten them, and this one did show them in order, your 2 middle numbers then are 34 and 36. So you have an even amount of numbers, so you're going to have 2 in the middle. So you need to take those 2 numbers, add them together, okay, kind of like you'd find your average or your mean. So you're going to take the 34 plus 36, which is going to give you 70, and then you divide that by 2, which gives you 35. So your median then for this answer is 35. Mode. Mode is the most popular value or most frequently occurring. Okay. So you have a list here of days of the week. Okay. Locate the number that appears. I wrote this out myself. I apologize. Locate the number that appears the most. Okay, well, the number, but it's associated with which day. Okay. So let's say we're looking at the day of the week with the most amount of absences. We're tracked for 3 months. Okay. And when you're doing that, you look back and you're like, okay, there are 5 Mondays missed, 1 Tuesday, 2 Thursdays, and 7 Fridays. Okay, so the biggest with the most occurrence is on 7. Okay, so then your mode would be Fridays. Okay, I think that's pretty straightforward. Alright, then the range is a set of numbers is the largest value in the set minus the smallest value in the set. So the range is then the difference between the largest and the smallest numbers. So you locate the smallest and you locate the largest, and then you subtract the smallest from the largest, and that would be your range. So for example, I had an example where you bought bags of chocolate with various ounce sizes. You had 3-ounce bags of chocolate, 16-ounce bags of chocolate, 10-ounce bags of chocolate, and 5-ounce bags. So again, you had 3, 16, 10, and 5. Okay, so my smallest number here was 3, and my largest was 16. So then I'm going to take the difference between 16 minus 3, which gives me 13. So my range then is 13. Okay. All right. Military time. That is something that if you are not used to, you need to practice that. To me, it makes the most sense. Of course, I worked in a hospital for many, many years. So that's usually how most hospitals chart. Of course, the beauty with computer systems now is that everything that you do is automatically charted based on the time that you chart it in real time. So, medications, when you deliver medications, after in the workflow, we scan the patient, we scan the med, and then it automatically tells us what time we did that. Okay. Also, what time we did our doc flow, our document flow sheet. That's also automatically time stamped. But you do need to be familiar with what military time is. So basically, if you take, let's say, 2 p.m., okay, 2 p.m. is you take 12 and then you add 2. Okay, so you take whatever time it is and you add the 12 to it. So you have 2 p.m. plus your 12 is 14. So 1400 is 2 p.m. Okay, so let's say if we're looking at 6 p.m. Okay, you'd add 12 to a 6. Okay, so you just add 12. Anything after noon, you would add 12. So at 6 p.m. you'd add 12 to 6, and that would be 18. So 1800 is 6 p.m. Okay, so just kind of practice with that. Write it out. Just so you have to get it memorized. Again, you just take whatever time. Let's say it's 9 p.m. and I'm going to that is military time. I'm going to add 12 to 9, and I'll get 2100. Okay, so 21. That just takes practice. The PEMDA is, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. I will be spending a lot more time on this versus just this one slide. It's kind of how we are. In fact, I put in the classroom, or not in the classroom, but a chart paper up, and anyway, just kind of keep it up during the semester. I cover it up during exams and stuff, but it's kind of the order of how you're going to do these operations. Okay, so you're going to do all the calculations inside grouping, like parentheses. Okay, so that's your P parentheses. First, parentheses, brackets, or braces. You do that part first, and then you'd look to see if you have any exponential expressions, powers, or square roots. Sorry. Regional roots, whatever. Next, and then you would do your multiplication, then your division from left to right, and lastly you do your addition and subtraction. Okay, so if you get that PEMDA thing, that can hopefully help you when you're doing the order of operations with problems. And then the other thing we'll be working on, and this is like more algebra coming up in a couple of units, is solving for x. Okay, so we look at this equation. We need to plug in a value into x to make it true. Okay, so we'll kind of do this quickly. Again, we will be spending a lot more time on this coming up, but you want to get the x on the one side. Okay, so for the first example, you have x minus 7 equals 14. So in order to get the x by itself, we have to add 7, okay, because right now we have really basically a negative 7. So if we add a regular 7 to that negative 7, that eliminates that, but then we also have to do it to both sides of the equation. So that means that we have to add 7 to the 14. So we have to treat both sides equally. So we added 7, we got rid of the 7 on the left side of the equation, so now we have x equals 14 plus 7, which is 21. So x equals 21. And if we plug in that value that we solved, so if we plug in the x and call it 21, if we do the math and we do 21 minus 7, we should get 14. Okay, that's a way to kind of double check. So on the next example, we have x plus 13 equals 26. Well, there again, we need to isolate x. So we have a positive 13 on the left side. In order to get rid of it, we have to minus the 13. Okay, so we minus 13 on the left side. That gets rid of that 13, but we have to do the same thing on the right side of the equation. So then we'll have x equals 26 minus 13, which happens to be 13. Okay, so if we plug in the value of 13 for x, that would give us 13 plus 13, which indeed is 26. Okay, well, thank you for bearing with me. We'll get through this together. Again, always email me with any questions. Khan Academy is a great resource, and we'll see you next time.